Hello everyone. So welcome to our today analysis on the CPI. So today we have US CPI data. So when we talk of CPI, that is the Consumer Price Index, an indicator of the inflation. So this is the indicator of the US inflation. So yesterday, the good thing with today is that yesterday we had some indicators that may give a slight signal on probably what could be expected today. So yesterday we had the PPI, that is Producer Price Index, month-over-month data, the core PPI and the PPI. So we saw an increase, a rise from negative 0.1% to an increase of 0.5%. So this one is positive for USD. So we expected a stronger dollar, and that is what had initially happened at this point. That is what had initially happened. But again, we can see there was a reversal, and we had a weaker dollar. So the reason as to why that happened, so remember later on after the PPI data, we had Powell giving a speech, and this was his reaction to the news, if I quote him. So I wouldn't call it hot, I would call it sort of mixed. So he didn't call it a hot data, although you can see it was very positive, but he said it's more of mixed data. So that is why we saw the USD later weaken. So according to what we had and his speech, we can clearly see US is somehow struggling with inflation. And we can also conclude that, or even we can see from the CNN business, that Powell also said that what has been happening. So if I quote him, we did not expect this to be a smooth road, but these were higher than I think anybody expected. So the controlling inflation has not been easy, especially for the first quarter of this year. And the numbers have not been as they really expected. And with the confirmation of yesterday's PPI, then there is a possibility that even on the CPI data, then we might see a rise. And of course, if that happens, then it means that US might, or even the Fed might have to hold their rates higher for long. So of course, they will be probably avoiding as much as possible to increase the rates, since most of the other central banks are looking to cut the rates. But the best they can do is to try and hold them higher for long. So with that, we can see, or we'll be expecting to see a stronger dollar. So today, with yesterday's indications and even the speech, today we have a number of events lined up at 3:30. The first one being the core CPI month-over-month data, which is at 0.4% expected to cool. Same case with the CPI month-over-month. That one expected to maintain at 0.4%. And the CPI year-over-year expected to cool slightly from 3.5% to 3.4%. So that is the major data. But again, we have three other, the core retail sales and the retail sales month-over-month. Also expected to cool from 0.7 to 0.4 and 1.1 to 0.2 slightly. And finally, we'll have the manufacturing index. So there is a lot of data for us to consider as we trade in the evening. So meaning today you need to be very cautious because you have CPI, you have sales, and you have the manufacturing data at the same time. So remember, our key focus still remains at the CPI year-over-year data. So with what we have been having, what we saw yesterday, the speech that we had from Powell, then there is that approach today with a biasness on a stronger dollar today. So today most traders will be looking for a stronger dollar. But then I will say the best confirmation will be after that data is released. So after the data is released and we can see it align with the PPI, then we will be looking for potential stronger dollar. So with that, of course, we'll be expecting USD to dominate most of the major assets. And the best asset maybe to consider will be Europe, the euro currency. Considering that with the euro, the inflation uh, has been well controlled, and we have a statement that probably they might cut the rates from June. So if we have today hotter than expected CPI data, US CPI data, then Euro USD might be a better pair to consider. We can see most of those pairs, even now, that is a Canadian dollar. The inflation is also well controlled. So we can also see a good movement on USD CAD. Finally, on sorry, I'm looking for BOE. So that we had a statement, we had a speech from a Bank of Canada governor, but he gave little on the interest rates. So we also had Governor Bailey who was speaking. Yeah, we had Governor Bailey. At least the inflation is also in the right path. And yes, they are likely to cut the rates, but they are not sure of when. So we had him say that they might have a cut probably on June 2, but again, it's not concluded. So we are not expecting them to hike the rates. They are in the right path. They will be looking to cut the rates, but again, it's not decided when. But they are going to cut in the coming quarters. So basically, it means if you look at those major pairs or major currencies, pound, euro, and Canadian dollar, if we have a hotter than expected CPI today, then we might see a stronger dollar across the board. So that is it. You need to be very cautious when you're trading the CPI today. Now, when it comes to technicals, our analysis still remains, especially on pound USD. So this is the level where on 10th of April, we had the US CPI and we had a strong sell. So you can see the prices have been trying to recover that movement, which has already happened partially. So it's only a smaller portion for us to fully recover it. So if today we see a cooler than expected or even a more cooler CPI, US CPI, then this will be the target. But again, if the data is hot than expected with the current trends, then we will be looking for potential sells on pound USD. So remember, this is news. You can have a movement on either direction. But remember, with the current data, there is that biasness of a stronger US dollar. So from there, the other asset that we've talked about is Euro USD. So we have also talked of Euro USD, which is the same scenario. The prices are trying to cover that movement, and you can see we almost fully covering the movement. So I will be looking for Euro USD to get to this point. And after the CPI, if the CPI will be hot than expected, then from this area, I will be looking for potential sells. So this could be the best area to look for those sells if the CPI is hotter than expected. But again, if the CPI cools, then yes, we might get to this area and then possibly a breakout, which will be of low probability, considering that again you is also looking to cut the rates on June. So Euro USD might be better for this sell at this point if we have a hotter than expected US CPI data. We can have pending order for sales here. If the data is released that way, or we can wait for it to get here, then we can look for sales and we can have our stop loss just above that zone or even above this high. And if it's higher, it's around 30 pips. I think that is okay. Yeah. Okay, so Euro USD might have a good opportunity if the US CPI is hotter than expected. So about USD CAD, we can also see USD CAD. It's also more in somehow a consolidation. This area, it's not forming a new low, it's not forming a new high. So USD CAD is not forming a new low, and it's also not forming a new high. I think we can conclude on that. We can see that clearly. So no new low, no new high. So we'll be expecting at least a breakout after the news to either direction. So once we have a hotter than expected the US CPI data, then we might hit this trend line and possibly continue moving to the upside. But of course, the first target to be that trend line. Once we have a weaker or even a cooler than expected the US CPI, then a drop to this zone will be of potential. Considering that this was 10th of April when we had the US CPI and we had a strong move for USD CAD. So we can see USD CAD again is trying to behave like Euro USD, trying to cover that movement. So trying to behave like Euro USD and Pound USD and AUD USD if you can check it. So we will also be expecting, if we have a cooler data, then we might have USD CAD pushing to the downside. So once it pushes to the downside, if the movement might be very strong, then I would advise we look for some potential buys at this area. So if you won't manage to execute a trade here, I can advise we look for potential buys at that zone. So those are the two possibilities that we have, or even the three. First, if it's direct, strong, so we push to the upside, targeting this trend line. But again, if we have a direct cool data, then we push to the downside. So this might be the best point for buys again. So that is it. Remember CPI. So it's always advisable for economic events. You wait for the data to be released for you to make your decision. So thank you. You have a nice day. Have a profitable day ahead. We will be doing live trading. So make sure you follow our live stream. So it will be live on TikTok. So remember to like the video and share. Thank you.